Hey, I have just decided, everybody, to kind of retire to to my room early because this has been this has been a crazy Mercury retrograde, and so I'm kind of hiding a little bit. So for those of you who are joining me, oh, Jessica Salas, my hero, thank you for joining us. Now, I am in my room, just so you know, I really am in my room. And sometimes at the end of a Mercury retrograde, everybody wants to hide, okay? So what I thought I'd do, because we're kind of at the end of the month, I thought I'd do like a little wrap up, okay, of what the insanity has been. Seriously, has this been a crazy month? Let's talk our lives and let's talk crime. Okay, first of all, I'm going to begin with Jussie Smollett. I think there's deeper ramifications to this case, but I do think that the fact that he just got his record sealed, I think we're going to see, these are some of my, oh, not so psychic predictions, but just thoughts. I think we're going to see some federal stuff coming out of that. So I just want to say that we might see some federal, well, we know the feds are investigating Jussie Smollett. So that's one thing. The other thing is I think that that's going to come back to haunt him. Now let's talk about Mercury retrograde for a minute. And I'm going to just see if anybody's here and just say hi. Oh, there's a bunch of you. Okay. I hibernate, but make myself go walk on the beach, run in the woods, do exercise. Love, Pat. I'm going to have to listen to you. That's it. Good day. I am telling you, this has been a wackadoodle month because I want to tell you, like, didn't January, February, I kind of felt like, yeah, I felt like I was in that song Groovin', you know what I mean? Like groovin'. And I just all of a sudden, like, it hit the skits in March. It was like, hi, Gavin. It was such a crazy, he always tries to push my computer. Go. It was such a crazy, what? Ivy Lynn, my uncle was shot and killed in Seattle carjacking yesterday. I'll never be the same again. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ivy Lynn, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh wow. I'm sending you lots of love. I'm so sorry. I don't know. It's horrifying. And I don't know quite what to say about it. So well, I'll perhaps touch on that because I think one of the lives I want to do is about loss and about how we relate to death. And I think it's going to be, I think that'll be an important one to do. Hi, Gavin. Okay, that's what he's doing. He's playing with a toy. Okay, so I know it's like, thanks, Ivy Lynn. Now we're all like, what? I don't mean any disrespect, Ivy Lynn. I'm sorry. I mean it like, there's not much you can say. It's kind of like, I know, Gavin, but we're not going to play with it right now. Yeah. Well, okay. So let's talk about, that's a good point. Living for him. Ivy Lynn, did they catch the guy? I don't know if they caught the guy. You know what, too, in a sense, it's like, well, let's talk about Mercury retrograde. And by the way, everybody, Mercury is going direct. It is going to be on Sunday, but I have to tell you, all this weekend, we're going to feel the effects of it kind of coming back into somewhat normal. I'm going to take my glasses off just so I'm not, because the glasses, they have to come off or I'm going to be reading the feed. So for those of you who do or don't understand, the sign of Pisces is oh, by the way, the sign of Pisces is very much about creativity, chilling out. They're not gonna, they kind of go with the flow, and in a funny way, they've seen it all. So, and I think they get a bad rap for being like drug addicted or alcoholics, but the truth is that they've kind of done a lot in previous lives. And I don't want to get into past life stuff because it's kind of like, that's a side thing to astrology. But the reason I'm saying this is it's been a Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So when we look at a retrograde, what that means for us is the planets. It appears that the planet's going backwards, but at the end of the day, what it really means for us in English is that this past month, it's been a do-over for creative projects, anything that is Pisces related, or depending upon where it falls in your chart too. Like it can even be things coming back that most of the time it's something coming back that hasn't been completed and it's related to Pisces. So let's talk about that, because looking at Jussie Smollett, we're also looking at a return of, and here he is creative, right? Talk about creative, I want to say prosecution. And I think we're going to see some trouble coming out from that. Here's the thing. I don't know that, I mean, I kind of, on one hand, I feel like he shouldn't have heavy time, but I feel like he should have had to do something or paid in some way. I really felt like it was a complete slap in the face to the Chicago PD. And I really, so here's what happens. When we look at what's happened in the last few weeks and Pisces is something that's kind of like behind the scenes, and it kind of works in a very interesting, slow way. But the other thing I want to say, and I always feel this, is that it is going to affect you in terms of how you think. So when you look at Pisces and you look at creativity, it's going to make you feel a little bit like you have to go over stuff. And it can even make you feel stuck, by the way. A Mercury retrograde can also, because a lot of people say, oh, things go haywire. Well, I got to tell you, anything that could go haywire this month went haywire. But also something very powerful about a Mercury retrograde. So next time somebody says, oh, it's Mercury retrograde, one of the other things that can happen is that you get a chance to fix problems that you had in the past. Now, that's not always fun, but at least you get to correct any issues from the past. So there you have it. And then let's see. Yeah, I want to just acknowledge Ivy Lynn and just say I'm glad you're here, and sorry for your loss. Natty Bats, one of the gals on the feed right here, Ivy Lynn, her uncle was murdered yesterday in a carjacking, and it's just, yeah, both my daughter and Sissy are born same day, both have alcohol issues. From alcohol OD. And you know something, I'm glad you said that, Love Pet. Alcoholism is a very, very serious disease. I mean, people die from it. Hey, Lizzie 10. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. You have no idea. Thank you. And there's a couple things I want to say. It's so funny. It's like so I am talking to you from, that's right, my room. I just decided to take to my bedroom, so that's it. But anyway, Lizzie 10, thank you so much, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to my community, and I really want to just say thank you so much. Spiritual Solace with Karamia, thank you so much. And Pisces. Let's see. Oh, good. Your husband's sober. Scorpio Sun, Cancer Moon. Ooh, somebody's emotional, Natty Bats. Let's see. I just want to give myself a moment here. Lonnie Gore, hi. Hi, Kelly K. Hi, Marika. Love Pet. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the super chat. That's really kind of you. An end of the month. So let's talk about that as we go into April, because one of the things I want to say to you is as we hit April, it is going to be like this. Get ready. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be hiding on April Fool's Day because, yeah, because. So it can be a little bit of a cluster on April Fool's. Laura Cedar. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I just really want to shout out to my moderators, Jessica Solace and Spiritual Solace with Karamia. You guys, like, they just show up. I mean, it's really amazing. So thank you both. Very, very appreciated. Okay, so the good thing about Mercury going direct, now here's what happens though. I want to remind you, Mercury's been going backwards, right, energetically. It doesn't really go backwards. It kind of stops in motion. That's what a retrograde is. It appears to be going backwards, but it just has actually slowed. So then it goes forward and it speeds up. So what happens is now all the things that you went through in the past month, you go right past them again. It's like you go, whew. Only this time, it's almost like you've done the do-over and it gets to be over. So some of the things that one of the things, important things that happens is that it gets to be complete. So I want to talk about some true crime things because we're going to see a lot of changes, I think, in YouTube. One of the things that I said recently, and I think I said it to, I was talking to my friend earlier, Tarot Kate. She's amazing. We're going to do some stuff coming up. But I was talking to her. Hi, No Name. No Name, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. We were talking earlier about YouTube and about, I've got to tell you, we both agreed that we literally couldn't listen to one more derisive conversation on television. It's like nobody's happy with anything. Do you notice that? Like if you go, well, we finished this. No, now you haven't. Now there's more. Oh, well, and she and I were talking about the amount of money that's been wasted on things that when we need certain things put in place. I'm going to tell you some things that I think need to be put in place. One of the things that I think is super important is we do need to find a way, and I don't want to get into like a big thing about it, but I think we need to really find a system to work with our gun laws, because we do have them. And I'm not saying take people's guns away. That's not it. I know that this is going to be I think the bigger conversation for me, and I don't want to piss people off, but that's what I do. Bigger conversation is, we need to vet people better, and we need better records of that. And I think that, if we have that with a fingerprint system with the FBI, why don't we have a national database of owners of guns? But that's, I think we're going to see in these coming months, I think that the people, we're going to get less and less patient with the way some things are being done. For example, I think Jussie Smollett's case is very unfair. I think we as people should have seen something with that. I think that one of the things that got us pissed off about the Chris Watts thing is that we saw this horrific crime and then we didn't really get a conclusion to it. And I'm going to tell you something else. I think, and I really, because I kind of talk a little bit to Zoe, Live Abuse Free, and I kind of feel she did a video, and I kind of agree, where I'm thinking, I don't know that I think he got supply is what she calls it, from his new story. I don't know. When I started listening to him again, and by the way, I listened another time, I know, like glutton for punishment. But when I listened again, one of the things that came forward to me is that A, he's a liar, and B, that we as a public didn't get a chance to really, and I want to say that we didn't get a chance to understand it at a core level. And by that, I mean the conversations we're having now. That's why it's been hard for a lot of people to move past it. I think we're going to see more and more closure around understanding that he's a liar. But I think also one of the things, again, I'm recapping some of the things that have happened in the last few weeks. Now we can look at Patrick Frazee and everybody calling him Crazy Frazee. Well, let's talk about Patrick Frazee. You guys are going to crack up. I did a full hour on Patrick Frazee, and my video cut out 20 minutes in. I didn't even notice. I'm just blah, 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 blah. So I put up a 20-minute video on Frazee, and actually there is another 40 minutes of it that I've got to go back and record, because a lot of what I talked about in that is how, as women, we, one of the big points, let me give you the salient point for those of you who did not watch it. I was talking about things we need to look for that I think that we can see if we really look. One of the things that that Vanessa, who was Frazee's girlfriend, before Crystal Lee and before oh God, now I know her daughter's name, but I can't think of her name. It's gonna come to me at like 3 in the morning. Wait, what's is a turd, but I appreciate the first. Oh, thank you, Natty Bats. What's all of the news? I was looking for this. Yeah. Okay, let me just. Thank you, K2 Scuba. I can understand the you say gun laws. I live in Canada. Well, here's the problem. All right, I'm going to share with you this because nobody's going to understand American gun laws and nobody's going to agree on it. So here's the issue. Sometimes when we find an issue that's a stalemate, it's much safer to fight each other than to look at the underlying cause of it. So I was just talking to, I have a publicist in London because I'm going to be going to London for my new book, my new deck, and in a couple weeks. And she and I were talking about it, and I was saying, well, yeah, you know, like the stuff about Brexit, and it's the same problem we had here in the US. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's the same thing. I said, nobody really tells the people what's going on. Nobody really informs us. We've got like one opinion over here and another opinion over here because news is all opinion now, in case y'all haven't figured that out. So we've got all these opinions telling you what you're supposed to think. So you go into the polls or you go in and vote, and I'm talking about Brexit now. I'll get back to Frazee. You go in and you vote, right? But what's happening is when you vote, you're voting on something you have assimilated from the information, but it's not all the information. But what they do, when I say they, the different sides, they get you riled up emotionally. So you go in there all frazzled. You can't remember what the hell you're doing. And then you just vote for something that you go later, why did I do that? That's not smart. Because they make you think, oh, because let's look at Brexit for a minute. And I'm not British. I don't vote in it. Full disclosure, it isn't my country. It's, you know, so I don't really have like that big of an opinion, but I want to go under the wave, right? We want to dive under it. And by the way, this is the same thing that Shanann, when she was going home that night, remember her approaching the doorbell? It's that same thing of thinking we need to get there to make things right. Instead of stepping back and being able to observe it, we want to rush in and we want to protest. We want to hate something. We want to, because it keeps us busy. And you know what? You know, my mother used to always like, well, while you're there, do this. So I'd always pretend to be busy, right? So that was kind of the joke in my family. Now, what I want to say about Brexit is that on the one side, and let's look at the underlying. People who want to leave, people who want to stay. But here's the deal. People who want to stay are seeing this as a unity. People who want to leave are seeing this as a united. See, we have to remember that they're stirring the emotions, but they're emotions that hit different parts of people, which is why when someone is like, and we go back to now a murder, right? Like, and this is what the point. We really haven't been trained with our feelings how to behave. And I know I'm saying a lot, but I'm going to come back to it. There's an awful lot you put. Let's see. Okay, yeah. All right. I just wanted to look and kind of see if I was missing something. Here's what I want to say to you. So when we look at, and I don't know if you guys are following me on this because it seems a little strange, but what I was saying to my friend is, well, the biggest thing with Brexit, no matter what the people decide, right, is that they weren't given all of the facts of what it would look like, right? So then what happens is it comes in and it's not what people thought. It's the same thing with Obamacare. I'm not saying it's good or bad, okay? But what happens is half the people think this, the other half the people think this, but nobody wants to admit that anything needs to be fixed. They just want to go, see, I'm right, instead of looking at the undercurrent of it. You know, people seem to think that it's us against them, but the truth is there's always a middle section that's controlling the entire conversation. Bear with me. You can call it narcissism. You can call it selfish. Again, you can call it Fred. But here's the bottom line. The undercurrent of both of these things is driving at your emotions. It's not real. Bear with me, because I'm going to share something crazy with you, which is that no matter whether Britain stays or Britain goes, they're going to have issues. But you see, what happens is people get tricked into thinking if they stand on either side and they're trying to fight it, that it's going to be okay. They're going to make it work. But if everybody just stopped and just went, maybe we just need to get more information about this and we want to re-vote. But you see, the parliament won't do that. Nobody will do that because people are afraid of stepping up and going, we need to really look at what this means for us. And the same thing here in America. So I go back to when I said the gun laws. It's just that it really comes down to you can't get rid of something and you can't legislate thought. Think about that. You can't legislate the way people think, but that's how it's gotten to such a pitch. Now, let's take that pitch for a minute. I want you to bear with me. Please bear with me before y'all go crazy on me. If you take that pitch, right, that pitch of like anxiety and upset, and you look at how that is when you enter into a relationship with somebody who's unbalanced. Well, what happens is you start here, and all of a sudden they kind of do this and you go, okay. And then they do this and you go, okay. But you get into such a numb state. It's crazy making, right? Crazy making that you can't even think clearly. You're completely outside of you. You've lost you entirely. And all of this crap that's going on has made us forget who we are. And that is why, and I'm getting truth bumps as I say this to you guys, that's why there's deep depression. That's why people are killing themselves. I mean, my God, this child named 7, he's 10 years old. He killed himself. What is that about? Somebody mentioned him yesterday and I was like, it's because we're not really getting to what the important values are. And everybody thinks their value is more right than everybody else. And I think that when we look, and I said this to my friend who's British, I said the biggest thing is that no matter which side the Brits go on, okay, no matter which side of the coin you're going to toss, the big thing is that, it's going to sound odd, don't give up your currency. You know, as long as they have the pound, they'll always have Britain. So that's kind of a different conversation because it's about, let's see, needless violence is concerning. Well, here's something I want to say to y'all, right? Hey, great to see you, Lourdes. What I want to say about the violence, they're having record stabbings right now in the UK. Record. They've had like people being stabbed, like something like 11 the other day. And, you know, there is violence going on because internal violence is so great that I'm going to be honest with y'all, people can only take so much pressure. Remember I said to you, I don't know, when I started all this a couple months, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I said, I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. It's like we look to blame something and this needs to be, you know, taken care of. Well, the truth is that as long as everybody that we have in power is pointing at each other, we have to stop it. You know, Russell Brand said it best. He said, as a consciousness, we've created everything we have. Now, if that's true, then how did Kelsey Barrett meet Patrick Frazee? How did she get pulled into that fantasy? I talked about that a little bit on the video, but I want to talk about it a little more because really, I'm gonna really share with you that I think Kelsey Barrett had a very healthy sense of herself, and I think that Frazee's prior girlfriend Vanessa did not. And there was a lot, and I really want to go into that more in another video. But what I wanted to say to y'all is that what I talked about and what I think is more important is that we, and I'm going to use women now. Sorry, Tim. I know there's a couple guys on the feed. One of the things I want to say as women, and I said this in the video, but I'm going to share it again. Did some of you, did you miss the video? Tell me if anybody missed it. I'd like to be out of the UK, but it's not so simple. There you go. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Oh, what videos? Somebody's talking about videos. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that, okay. Oh, thanks, Tim. Tim's okay with it. All right, so I'm going to share with you. Let's see. That was sweet. Okay. Liz Sark, what breaking news is out? Hi, Cruz Boston. I know somebody said there was breaking news. Tim, it's like, yeah, I feel like live from my bedroom. It's like, here I am. All right, so let me talk about this very briefly. Women, this is like, here's the deal. As a woman, real women, never fall in love with a man. We fall in love with ourselves, and we share that with a man in our life. Men fall in love with women, and we share that love with them, and that becomes a healthy balance of a relationship. I'm going to explain that in a second. I just want to shout out to Dizzy Ms. Lizzie. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. What's going on with Patrick Frazee, Liz Stark? She said something that, okay. Yeah, something happened with Frazee, so now I have to jump on and look. But I want to just mention this. So as women, right, the most dangerous thing we can do is fall in love with a man. And I know that sounds insane, but here's how that works. The only man in our life we should really fall in love with is our son, or a young boy who we take care of. Like if we're a foster mom, a stepmom, an aunt, because we fall in love with little boys because they're sweet. But as a woman, we must fall in love with ourselves, because the minute we fall in love with a man, he becomes a boy. And he starts to get away with stuff. He gets let off the hook. He resents you because you're his mommy. And it is very easy for your self-esteem to be ripped out from underneath you. It is so easy for you to just have everything stolen from you. Now, as I say this to you, I want you to really get this differential of like, when we look at a woman who truly is owning herself and who's truly in love with herself, she is the most appealing woman we could be around. And we don't know why. And that's why I often say intimacy is into me see. It's not something I'm going to get from you. It's something I am. You get to see into who I am. And that's why people tend to have, and I've said this to my friends, they tend to have a very strong reaction to me. They either go, oh my God, I love her, or ugh, I can't stand her. And even the people who love me get annoyed by me. So that's how, and I'm going to tell you, that's where I relate to Shanann, because I feel in many ways where I feel Shanann turned, if you will, where I feel she got into trouble with herself, was she lost sight of what we loved about her, which was that she owned herself. And over time, Chris Watts dug away to the point where, okay, he can't do it, I'll just do it. Because sometimes as women, it's like, can you change the light bulb? Can you change the light bulb? I'll just change it myself, And what happens is we just think, oh, I'll just do that because I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into it equates to, I'm going to be mommy. One of the best things I ever heard was from one of my best girlfriends. And she's been married to if you looked at her with this guy, you would go, this guy's a saint, like the best husband ever. And I remember one day saying to her, I said, tell me something. And she went, I go, how is it you seem to get everything you want. And by the way, I want to be really clear. This has nothing to do with looks, okay? Because she was an attractive woman, but she certainly wasn't some model, right? And I said, how do you get everything you want? And he was a good looking guy. I wouldn't say he was like a prize, but it was her prize, right? So she said, Tori, I'm going to tell you something. My husband has given me everything I've ever wanted. And I went, wow, that's pretty. She goes, wait. But never when I wanted it. That's the key. That's the key. That's why in the old days we dropped a handkerchief and we walked away, because we wanted to see if he was going to pick it up. Was he capable of stepping up to the plate? And I know Tim's here. I know there's a couple guys, truth bumps. A guy wants to be able to step up. And if we as women fall in love with ourselves and we are like taking care of ourselves and being really, really good to ourselves, a man is like, oh, they want to do something. They're going to pick up your handkerchief. They're going to, but even in any relationship, it's being able to say, hey, listen, I do need this, and let me know when you can do it. But the problem is that like any little boy, they're going to test to see if you're going to push them. And one of the things that I remember saying, I was working with a client and this came up in a reading, and I said, you know what? I think, because she was having this problem with her boyfriend at the time, I said, why don't you do this? Because she felt like she was always begging him to get something done, right? And I said, why don't you just back up and say to him, you know what? I really want this done. Meaning, I don't know what it was. It was a door being hung. Let's say that was it. I really want this door hung. Can you give me an idea of when you'll get it done so I don't hound you to get it done? And he said, yeah, I'll do it a week from Friday. Now that was 10 days away. She called me up. She goes, it's 9 days from now. I go, yeah, it's 9 days. Keep your mouth shut. Go take a bath. Go get a massage. Leave the door alone. And 9 days later, when he hung that door, that man was the happiest man in America. Now, here's what I want to say. That's not easy stuff, because it's kind of like, well, that's the Stone Age, Tori. But you know what? Isn't it true that as women, we get so exhausted when we have to be men? Feminine energy needs rest. Haven't you ever noticed how exhausted you are? Come on. As women, we're expected to be out there. And you know what? What we do is we take away a man's position. We take away his energy. Now, by the way, even as I say this, I want to be clear. If it's two women, right, gay, it's still, and two men, whatever, no matter what it is, there's still a feminine and masculine energy. So you're still dealing with these energies. Okay, so it's not like it's only man, woman. It's really also male, female in the energies. So here's the way this works. It's kind of like that Y and Z and X chromosome. And this is what I've learned in my travels. A man can never get feminine energy anywhere but from a woman. A woman can get masculine, because she can be masculine, or she can be feminine. A man who forces you into being the masculine role wants to be a little boy. And one of the things that I remember, this client with the door, he hung the door. And she even said over time, I said, just learn. Because the thing that I've learned with male energy is if you go, listen, this is really important to me, and I'd like to get it done sooner. Is there any way you could put it into your schedule? All right, well, I can do it by Thursday. And it may be Monday. But you know what? And I've been working with a lot of contractors in this last year, and that's what I say. I just go, okay. But you see, what happens is instead, a lot of times we go into upset because it's not getting done when we want it. And I think that instant thing is so difficult because you see, I'm going to be honest with you, male energy isn't bothered by the things that female energy is bothered by. They just aren't, they just aren't. And so the aesthetics that we love, right, aren't bothering them as much. That's why it's so important to take care of ourselves and what's important to us, because as we take care of ourselves, men get a chance to go, what can I do for you? And we go, oh, can you hang that door? It'd make me so happy. I mean, and that's the thing, is that understanding that people have different ideas of time. We're going to talk about Frazee, but I want to just check in with everybody for a minute. My ex made me so mad. I yelled at him. You were 2 cells from being a girl. That's really funny. Oh my God. Life is, and Natty Batts said, life is about tolerance and understanding. I feel I've had a rude awakening to this in the past few years. You know something, I am going to say to you that I think we all have had a rude awakening to it. And I want to say that I think that the intolerance, if you will, happened when more and more and more people thought they could have what they wanted when they wanted it. And we do live in an instant society now. I'll tell you something. When I went on, and I think you guys noticed, I put up some plain coffee mugs, right? So, and I went, what do you mean it takes 6 days to get? What? You have to pay for shipping? I mean, it's the only one that works with YouTube well and all that. But I was like, what? And it's my own thing of like, it's not instant. It's not free. And it's like, well, that's how that business works. So I think we have to understand that things are going to be, they're not going to be the way we want them to be all the time. And I think that, and what I was talking about with my friend in London today is this, because we were talking about spiritual energy and I was talking about being psychic, right? And I said, you know, I think that what I think of this is that, and I was talking also, by the way, to my friend, Tarot Girl Kate. She's fantastic. I love her. We're going to do something in a couple of weeks. I mentioned it already, but we were talking about it, and we're going to do some like tarot offs where we talk, and we'll be doing live feeds where we show tarot stuff, which will be fun. But she and I were talking about it, and we both agreed that, I said to her, you know, I'm just at a place in my life where I found peace. And she said, you know what? I have too. And look, that's not to say I don't go into upset everybody. That's not to say that something doesn't piss me off. I just basically am peaceful. And I'm excited about things that are coming up. So when I say this to you, the goal of all of this is finding peace. Let's talk about Kelsey Barrett in just a moment. I want to check in with all of you and just kind of see if any of you, yeah, Shanann did everything, Tim. You're right. Thank you, Emmy319. Chalky. Love Chalky. I love that name. Allison, I divorced mine. Never look back. I love you. Yeah, Spiritual Solace with Cara Mia is putting up my Patreon. Thank you, love. But I want to also let you know, tomorrow I'm trying it. I don't know how it works, but I'm going to do a live feed just for the Patreon people, and I'm going to be doing readings at 11 o'clock Eastern time for the Patreon people. And I just want to see how that works. Yes, Bella Nick. Okay, here's what happens as feminine energies. We work all day in the masculine, we come home, and then we try to run the show again. And it's actually got a name. It's called second shift. And second shift means a woman who works all day and then comes home at night and works a second shift, while in many cases, not all, in many cases, her husband has just come home from work and he relaxes, right? So there's that going on. And also, by the way, Shanann was so much in her masculine, right? Think about this, because she's running everything. And when a woman is in her masculine, she looks mean. She comes off as bossy. She comes up because she is, you know, the cliche girl boss, right? Because we have to be in our masculine. I can't be in my feminine when I'm like doing my business. Now, when I'm doing my readings, I'm very much in my intuitive feminine. And so there is a very specific, there's a very specific energy. And I actually call in the white light from God. I bring down from the heavens this very peaceful, soothing white light. And then I do my readings, because actually I'm at a place where I'm not afraid of any other entities. And by the way, I want to say, This was brilliant. I think it was over on Live Abuse Free. She said something, and I agree with her. I really have felt this all along. I think that Chris Watts was trying to say the dark forces, something I didn't know was happening. I think he's trying to angle for being possessed, that he was like some kind of demon invasion. Well, I'll tell you what invaded him. Greed. He wanted what he wanted when he wanted it. And that little boy got spoiled so much at home that he thought he was going to get spoiled somewhere else. So there you go. No, what happened, Hot Pink? Let's see. Yeah, you know, I want to say something about interactions with men, because I think you guys are bringing it up, and I think it's so important. Yeah, it's almost over. It's almost over, Kathleen Smith, but not quite yet. Yes, Dawn, greed. He wanted what he wanted it. Think about it. He wanted to hoard everything. He thought, think about this. They're not going to live, because if they live, I'll be looking at what they have and I'll want it too. He wanted everything. He was not a live and let live kind of guy. And somebody said today on my feed, they said, well, Chris had lots of friends. I go, name two. Everybody showed up for Shanann. People always, always, ultimately will show up for the empath, rather than the victimizer. Now, the victimizer can be very sweet, like Frazee, but we're going to talk about that too. Let's see. My ex relaxed well after work. I worked all night. Thank you, Judy Smith. I never got to sleep before 11. But he got up, but also got up at 5 a.m. Morning shift, mid shift, night shift. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Glam Dolly 20, you are right on, man. By the way, I enjoy your posts a lot. Let's see. Visual Asylum, you are totally wrong. Shanann wanted everything, and I am not a CW lover, just speaking the truth. No, you're speaking your opinion, which is totally fine. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. So I want to be clear on that, Virtual Asylum. And you bring up a great point. Just because you have an opinion that Shanann wanted everything doesn't mean I'm wrong about saying that Chris is greedy. See, I think one of the things we have to get is that there are different points of view. And what if, as Emerson said, we hold them both as true? I really get that in your opinion, Shanann was greedy. I didn't see it that way, because as a woman who's in her masculine a lot, I see it as Shanann wanted a lot for her kids. She wanted them to have the best. She was willing to sacrifice her own health to have these children. So when I look at Shanann, I don't see greed. I see a doting mother. I see a mother who wanted the best for her kids and for them to have everything. I see in Chris Watts, a decision, a desire to support his wife, but he supported her as a little boy supports mommy, not as a man supports a woman. So I think that I would say that I can see how you see that. I don't agree, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. It's just your opinion about it. And I think that my opinion just stands on the other side of it. So one of the things we have to be careful about, and I think this is the key, is that when we start seeing, when we start like calling each other names or you're wrong, and again, I'm using this as an example, it doesn't promote conversation, because here's what happens, and I'm glad you did this, Virtual Simon. Thank you for this. What begins to happen is everybody stands back because it's like, oh, somebody just said something mean, and it kind of energetically vibrates through the whole community. And now people are polarized to what's been said. So what happens is, oh my gosh, is that person right? How is she going to respond to it? Is this person right? And it puts a lot of us back into our wounding from childhood of mom and dad fighting. What do I do? So here's the thing I want to say to you. I'm going to offer you an opportunity also going forward to say, I may not be wrong. It's just like, gosh, I see it completely different. I really see it as Shanann's greedy. Okay, can you tell me more about that? How is she greedy? So that way I can understand you rather than get into a fight with you about it. So I just want to say that to me is what I'm talking about when I say, I welcome opinions. I don't like to be called names or kind of told I'm wrong. That's one of my own triggers, you know. And by the way, I'm not a therapist, so I have to sit there and go, yes, tell me more. I like, you know, if I'm with a client and I feel like I had a client who was with me once and they were like, nope, 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 nope. And I go, okay, why are you here? They're like, what do you mean? I go, why are you here? Because everything I'm saying to you, you're disagreeing before I even open my mouth. And they're like, oh. So what is it about that? And they're like, well, I want you to get it right. I said, what would getting it right mean? And then she told me, and it was a very specific thing that I said to her, then I'm going to get it wrong. Because it was, I want you to tell me what my ex is doing and blah, blah, blah. I said, then I'm going to get it wrong because I can't read him. And that brings up the point of why I feel like I can read somebody like Cindy Watts, right? Because in a way, I'm not reading deep personal stuff with Cindy Watts. I'm just seeing what I see, you know? I think that's the thing is that, and by the way, I did a little reading earlier and just to look at it. And I just feel, I know this is kind of like antithetical to what I say, but I go through moments when I feel sorry for Cindy Watts. I go through moments when I feel sorry for everybody in the Watts case. But the thing I will never, ever, ever not feel sad about is the loss of Bella and Celeste. I can't, that and Nico and Shanann, that's something I don't think I'll ever not have a sadness about. Because it is about lights being snuffed out. And so one of the things that even when I used to argue with my writing partners, we used to go, you know, we used to say all the time to each other, like, you know, we'd interrupt and we'd like argue. And you guys saw how I interrupted with Lara and stuff like that. And we're like, it's like a chick thing. We're kind of crawling on each other sometimes, you know, when you're good friends. So you guys lost sound? Can you hear me? I don't know if he was abusing stimulants. I can't say. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Let's see. Yeah, thank you for, it looks like, yeah, I think Virtual Asylum might need a timeout because I think what happens sometimes, okay, cool, thank you guys. Sometimes what happens, what's wrong with some psychics? Okay, I'm just going to say that. Can I tell you something too? You know, I feel sometimes like, what is it? Is it Groucho Marx who said, you know, I wouldn't ever want to join a club that would have me as a member? Sometimes I feel that about being psychic. I'm going to be honest with all of you because I feel like it's not something I wanted. I didn't want to hang a shingle in Times Square. You know, I love God. I had still do, have a relationship with Jesus. You know, for me, this is my world, but I also respect everybody else's, as you guys know. I want to be, oh, also, let me just see where we are here. Boss just said, someone, I don't want to say their name, is saying Shanann came to her and says CW didn't kill her or the kids. She's saying there were intruders. Okay. That woman, wrong. I just have no words for it. Okay, yeah. I think Virtual Asylum, bye-bye. Yeah, so I think you're fine. Yeah, thank you. Okay, cool. You're fine, Glam Dolly. Bye-bye. So, and thank you to CW is as delusional as her son, in my opinion. W.C. Fields, thank you, Kathleen. That's it. Okay, so it looks like Judy Barron's had no sound. I think what happens sometimes, I know this happens to me. Have you ever hit a button and you don't get sound? And it's like, you know, you think it's them. So there you go. I had several replies to her, but one of your moderators is a troll. Ooh, thank you. Okay, Jessica, keep an eye on that, will ya? Keep an eye on that. I don't know, who said it? One of your, Liz Stark, L-I-S Stark. If you can let Jessica know, that'd be great. Yeah. Am I muted? No. Okay. All right. Yeah, Astrid, there we go. It's important to have respect for CW's family as well. You know what? I think that if we understood, let me back up. And I'm not going to look because my moderators have this going on. So just check it out, Jess, and let me know, because Jessica's like, okay. I think what I've been picking up more and more and more about Cindy Watts is that, I don't know if you've ever done this. I know I have. You paint yourself into a corner, and then it's humiliating to say anything else. And the truth is that the behavior was so appalling that, and here's the other thing. I don't really think that she has any idea that when she gave the victim impact statement in the courtroom, and the victim impact statement she and her husband were allowed to give because their grandchildren were murdered, I don't think she understood that turning to her son and forgiving him was not what the impact statement was. The impact statement, in that moment anyway, was really, she can say that to him, that's her business. But the truth is, a victim impact statement in that way was how it feels to have lost her grandchildren. And I think that what we see is her hatred for Shanann was so great that she couldn't see anything else. She was blinded by rage. And I had to block somebody off the channel the other day because one of the things that, okay, all right. One of the things that happened was she just kept going on about how Shanann had been a criminal and blah, blah, blah. And it was somebody else who had a similar name. And I was kind of like, you know what? I just don't want to get into arguments with people about this stuff because it's not important. Let's look at what is important. And that is, you know how guys watch football? Now, I watch football because I kind of like it, but it kind of got ruined the last few years. But I always liked football. I always enjoyed the game. But guys watch football because there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and they have a problem and a resolution because they like to solve problems. When we get into our masculine, we like to solve problems. Now, when those of us, the females who love true crime, that's our beginning, middle, and end. So for us, and by the way, some of the best detectives I've seen, don't mean anything to anybody else, are women because they can really get in there and kind of look at things, or men who are totally in their feminine. Even when I watch Joe Kenda, he's kind of a guy, but he's also kind of looking at things. Notice how quiet he is too. That can be a feminine quality. When we talk a lot, that tends to be more on the masculine side. That's not a bad thing. Look at me. So I just wanted to share that with you. Let me just see. Truth seeking. Yes, I agree with you. Truth-seeking gal just said, I think Cindy during the impact statement was just trying to prove what a sensitive, loving mother she was. Again, thinking of herself rather than the loss of Shanann. See, I think that speaks to, and that's right on, by the way, right freaking on. I think that really speak to, I really think that speaks to the idea that not being able to see how other people feel. And, this is a couple of years ago. I was working with a woman and her husband. They had been married like 30 years, and she literally could not have a connection with him where she wanted him to be a certain way. And it was very interesting because she was not able to understand or hear his point of view at all. It was fascinating, right? Now, this can go to, again, bear with me, it can almost go into the idea of narcissism, because only understanding your own point of view. But again, my point of view on that. I think we're all on spectrums. I think we all have some of it. So this woman came to me and she said, he just doesn't listen to me. He doesn't make sense. And the minute people start saying that, I go, okay, how are you not hearing them, right? So I listened to them speak. They came in and talked to me. This was back when I was doing more active work in that way. And I listened to him and I listened to her. And I said, okay, freeze. And now what I want you to do is switch roles. And they were like, what? And I said to my client, I said, okay, I want you to behave as though you're your husband and argue his point. And to her husband, I said, I want you to pretend you're her and argue her point. And they were like, what? But they started doing it. And within 10 minutes, they were both like holding hands and looking at each other and going, you did know what I meant. Because you see, when we're so fixed on our point of view, the other person thinks we don't hear them. And all they need is for us to hear them. So the issue is, and I can say this for myself many, many times, you know, when you're really trying to break away from narcissism, right? One of the things that happens is it is a practice to have compassion. And I think that, yeah, and I think that, let's see. Yes, I agree. What is it? Astera Fire said Cindy's past behavior would have proven her as being a loving person. Possibly, yeah. She would not have to attempt to prove it in court. She was totally thinking of herself and her image of what was happening. I do agree with you. Oh my gosh, I so agree with you. Yeah. All right, I'm going to see what Chris Watts is beta, high IQ. I think that's why I was saying, you know, very, very smart in some ways. Let's see. Okay, Tori, you bashing the Watts is despicable. Thank you. Can someone ban that person? Thank you. Great. Thank you. All right. I'm not trying to bash the Watts, and if this person sees it, I think we can just get rid of them. Thanks, Jessica. All right. And by the way, you know, it's really interesting. You know, I think this is the biggest point, everybody. Why get into an argument with that person? It's like, I just want them gone. You know what it is? I get upset. I don't like to see it because it doesn't serve what we're trying to do, which is to find out what the ways out are. So I want to thank you. No time for that. Jessica Salas, she's got it going on. I just want to say that. We need to see all sides of this case, everyone's side. Thank you, Lisa. I do agree with you. And I think the issue is not that we don't see other sides. I think that there's an intolerance and a meanness, like you're a bitch, is not a way to see the other side. I think kind of going, I don't see that at all. I don't know how you see that. So I think that when we even get into the name calling, right? Even when we get into he's crazy or he's this, what we're doing is we're taking terminology that has been applied to us and we're trying to push it away from us. Because I know for me, like I've been called names that I certainly have used before. So I just want to say that nobody's going to do this life perfectly. So, let's see where I got to plug in. Hold on, guys. But the thing I want to say is that, hold on, because it's like my computer just went, you've got like 10 seconds. Oh, crap. Please charge. Okay, there we go. Let's talk about Frazee for a minute. I want to talk about things to look for because there are basically 5 traits that, I just wanted to see if I'm missing anything, and then I'll go into the traits. Yeah, I agree. I don't think they had sex that night either. That's just me. Arthur, yeah, I thought that too. He said no way she had sex with him. I think the same thing. Who are the trolls? Just let us know. Just let us know. Yeah. I know. I love Kenda. Okay. Yeah. Well, the Ready Freddy, who cares if they had sex? Okay. So here's the thing. Yeah. It doesn't matter right now. Because the thing about it is that starts to become another way for us to hide our feelings, you know. And by the way, if you mention the word sex, your comment automatically gets kind of hidden from the post. So just so you know, that's kind of set up that way. So a couple things I want to say about that. It doesn't matter, because in this moment, it more goes to the fact that Chris Watts was a liar and he was lying all along. And every time, and I don't know about you, but every time I look at somebody, I want to believe they're telling the truth. That's just my own stuff. By the way, if you're thinking of it, please give a thumbs up. It really does help in the YouTube processing, the way they rate videos and stuff. So if you're interested, give it a thumbs up. Yeah, so that would be great. Yeah, I agree, Janet. I would have been so tired, pregnant, exhausted, being stressed. Let's see. Has anyone actually seen his IQ was that high, other than words? You know what? Nobody's seen it, but I don't know that he would have a real reason to lie about that, because he in some ways was so dumb socially that, and he was just, it was kind of like, who cares, you know? Let's see. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So Tiffy Jacks, love ya. Oh, thank you, Kim Smith. I really appreciate it. Love having you here. Bren Rick, good to see you. Cheryl Ramsey, good to see you. Yeah, exactly. I agree. So, okay. All right. Astrid, we're going to move off the panties and things, and we're going to move on to, I'd like to move on to the 5 things that I noticed with Frazee that you can start to see as women. And I said this in that video, but I'm going to say it again and again and again. Hold on, give me a moment, everybody. I got to come back to this because I want to move off Chris Watts, because I feel like right now it's a very toxic conversation, and I don't think it's helping any of us. I think it's steering us down a path that is not going to help us move into the 5 things we need to see. As women and as men, we must be ambassadors for each other. We must be honest when we see shit happening. You know, I tell you what, I remember, and I'm going to tell, story time. Before I go into Frazee, I'm going to tell you a story. I had a best friend, and he's been my friend for 40 years. So Brian, and we met when we were 8 or 9, and we were doing, like, you know, summer camp, theater camp. And long story short, over the years, Brian and I stayed in touch. We were always like, just, you know, like brother, sister. And when I was moving from New York to California, he was living in DC. He had just broken up with his girlfriend. And my dad said, my dad and I bought a car, and my dad gave me the car to move to California. La, la, la. Okay, here's the story. So my dad said, Brian said, I'll go with you. So my dad said, pick up Brian in DC and you two can drive down. Fine. So I picked up Brian. Bear with me, everyone. I want you to stay with me. Please stay with me. I picked up Brian in Washington, DC, and we drove cross country. And every 10 minutes it was crunch, 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 crunch. Now, whether the car was dark, I want you to imagine being with a compulsive overeater for 5 days in the middle of winter, some treacherous driving, and yeah, Valley Girl, you're right. Your adrenals are drained. So let's just move away from CW for a minute. All right. Okay, good. For just 1 minute, everybody, try not to look at the feed. Let's stay with the story. So Brian was compulsively eating for 5 days driving cross country. And we got to Arizona, and we're at the outside of Arizona. And Brian had gone to flight school. He was very smart, but he wanted to be a doctor his whole life. And finally, we were driving, and we'd gotten to Arizona, and we were like, you know, it was a clear night, and I heard him crunching, and I said, okay, that's it. I've had enough. He goes, what are you talking about? He was driving. I go, pull off the road. So we pulled off on this exit. And, you know, when you pull off an exit in Arizona, just so you know, there's nothing there but tumbleweeds and big cactus. Okay. And they look like weird people in the middle of the night. So we're standing there and I go, you have to effing stop it. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, you're overeating. You're eating yourself to death. Your mother who died, you know, I don't know, she had died a few years prior. I said, she would not want you in flight school because you don't want to be in flight school. You want to be a doctor, but you're afraid to go to med school because then they'll find out about you being an overeater and you'll have to deal with your weight issues. And this is all crap. And he goes, F you. How dare you say that? I go, F you. How dare you think that? So we just got into this big F thing. We got back in the car. We drove all the way to California silent. It's about 6 hours. And, you know, for me to be silent, that's a lot. I was pissed. So we get there, and I pull up into an intersection in California. He jumped out. It was pouring rain that night. And I did not see Brian or hear from him, actually, for 5 years. I was living in California with the blue. Phone rings. Phone rings. It was Brian. Hadn't heard from him in 5 years. And he said, I want to tell you, because he was mad, you know, because I really told him, I called him on stuff, right? He said, I have to tell you. He said, I am starting my residency. And he said, I want to tell you that I have just gotten engaged. And he's been with his wife for years and years now. He said, I've just gotten engaged. And he said, I want you to know that, remember that exit we pulled off in Arizona that night and you were screaming at me? I go, yeah. He goes, you know, I was screaming back. I go, yeah. He goes, I live off that exit now. And I live with my fiance and I have finished med school, starting my residency. And he said, I hated you for being right. I hated you, but you saved my life. Truth bumps. And he said he went into bariatric surgery. He opened weight loss centers, but more health centers, right? The point I'm making in all this, and the reason I'm saying this to you, is when we are a stand, when we really are in the loving, if we love somebody enough, we will risk losing them to save their life. If we are so focused on being liked, we will lose the love. And that's what's most important. And the love is for ourselves. I loved myself enough to know that I could not live with myself if I did not tell him, you are an effing overeater and you need to do something about it. And, you know, we've gotten away from tough love, right? And now we call it honesty. And it's like, nobody wants to hear your honesty. They want your love. And, you know, when people come to me and go, you know, I used to teach a lot of classes in I'm petting Gavin. Hi, Gavin. I used to teach a lot of classes in California, and I used to just about career and stuff like that. And I know I've shared this with some of you before, but I'd always look at someone when they said something perhaps stupid, but I wouldn't say stupid, you know, something that was like, what? I'd go, now, you know, I love you. And everybody it became a group joke where everybody would go, oh, here she comes. So the point is that we must risk losing people to save their lives. And sometimes that becomes more important. Some of them will recognize it like Brian did, and some won't recognize it, but we can live with ourselves. Because ultimately, how many people look at what, and I'm going to say Nicole Atkinson did, because we go, wow, I wish I learned to speak up. And I'm sure she felt she could have spoken up sooner, but you know, it's what happens when you're in that position. But the point I'm making in all this is that, you know, these kinds of stories happen when we get bold enough to risk losing everything to gain everything. So, you know, I think, let's see, exactly. Lisa just said, we need to be able to express concern without stressing about everything people need to be open to. Yeah. I think when we say, let's say, instead of, because I think, let's reframe that a little, the positive criticism. I think what we want to say is that, you know, really being able to say to somebody, and if I said to, let's see, Cruise Boston. Thank you, Cruise Boston. That's right. My channel, my rules. There is a difference between criticizing and truth-telling, but they can seem similar. Yeah, Joseph, that's what happened. I got interrupted on that call. My phone cut out my video. Take an effing chance. I love it. So please finish why Frazee killed Kelsey but not Vanessa. I will. That's exactly what I was just segueing into that. Okay. So let's see. It's Kiska City. I think that's what it is. Okay. Okay, wait a second. Alice Parker, you're making a good point, and then I want to get into Kelsey. People can abuse that logic, though. My mom says shitty things to me constantly under the guise of it's for your own good. That's completely different. That is completely different. I had a very good friend. I'm going to give her a different name. She was a family friend, and she took on the mother role with me. When my mom died and I was 15, she was only 32, but I looked up to her. And she would say things to me that would roll off her tongue that were like a stingray. You know, and my cousin did this too, but it's kind of like, I need to tell you something. You are not ba 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 ba, and I think you need to do such and so. And I'd be like, I'm not talking to that person for 2 years. You know, there's a different conversation between being invasive and being supportive. So the difference here is, and Alice, I'm really glad you brought this up. What we have to learn is what is acceptable to us and what is not. And that's why I don't use the word boundary. I use the term acceptability. And I remember, and this is for me, how I would handle something like that, and I learned to handle it is, you know, if somebody's trying to tell me something that I think is just, you know, like, you need to XYZ because of this, I'd say, you know what? Right now, this is really making me angry, and I'm not able to hear what you're saying. So if your intention is for me to hear you, it's not working. It's making me feel angry, and I don't know why it is, but I need to leave the room. So sometimes we need to say what's going on because it's clear communication. Now, when you have somebody who's harsh like that, that's how you handle it. Let's talk about Kelsey. I'm going to keep talking about that, though, Alice. You bring up a wonderful, wonderful point, which is that there is a big difference between, you know, when you're a grown woman who, you know, and you have listen, if you're a mom, you know, how can you say something with love to somebody and just say, I'm seeing something that is disturbing to me. And if you want to hear it, I want to share it with you. If you don't, I don't want to share it. Why, Leah, oh my gosh, I love you. Thank you so much for the super chat. It means the world to me, really. And Tara Rose, it's so important the way you say things. That's why I love the South, Tara Rose. They go, oh, bless his heart. And they mean he's an idiot, right? But I just love it. Everything that comes out of, when I listen to a woman from Atlanta, they just have the gentlest way of saying things. They just talk as though it's like, oh, yeah. And you just think, oh, they like me. And meanwhile, they're going, isn't she just a little touched? And you're like, I don't think that's good. All right. Frazee. I'm now shifting gears. Okay. I'm not looking at chat. So Frazee, the reason he did not kill Vanessa, but he killed Kelsey. All right, I'm gonna differentiate. And by the way, I have my glasses on. I'm far enough away, I can't see anything. The reason he didn't kill Vanessa is because he could destroy Vanessa, and he kept enjoying playing the game with her. And he ultimately destroyed Vanessa's self-esteem to the point where she ran off with some guy and got into meth. And this was the girlfriend, by the way, before Kelsey. This was, they had been together for 4 years, Frazee and her. And he did things. Number one, he would be like, I love you, I love you, and love you. And then in the middle of the night, he would call or he wouldn't call for 5 days. And then he'd call in the middle of the night and he'd say, I keep seeing you in a wedding dress. And I'm having a dream about that. And she would go, oh, and then he would then yank away from her again. Now we call this a term, right? In the psychological area, they have a term for that. But what I think it is he really got with with Vanessa, he got to destroy a woman. Check that out. He got to really just push her down in the ground. By the time he decimated her, you know, her inner self, he had no more need for her. She was disposable to him. She was completely unnecessary. And there was no more damage he could do to Vanessa because she was someone, and I use the differential of a bad girl and a good girl. So let me define it in a different way for you. And I did this in the video, but basically the way I'm using it is the bad girl, if you will, is the girl who would rather fall in love with the guy and do all the bad things. Like they'll speak back, they'll do all the things that will dig themselves deeper and deeper into their own hole, and they'll feel worse and worse and worse, and they'll feel really bad about themselves. So that's what I mean. It's like, that's the bad girl. They're the ones that like use that kind of guy to validate their lack of worth. So what happens is, and I'll mention the other one. It sucks. Okay, I'll mention the other one in a minute about validating worth, because I'm going to talk about value and worth, which is very important. But the other one, when we look at Kelsey, did you take a look at Kelsey? Did you see how her face was clean, clear, very direct? Well, here's the funny thing. In my opinion, I see in Shanann Watts a very similar thing that I saw with Kelsey. And the difference is that Kelsey with Frazee, she had a baby, and then she started recognizing she didn't want to be with him. I think what happened is she broke up with him. And this guy, and now I'm going into kind of a psychic thing here. He had a very sick thing with his mother. Now, somebody asked me about incest between Chris Watts and Cindy. I think there was emotional incest, but I don't feel physical. And by the way, it can be just as damaging in some ways. I just want to say that. I'm not invalidating, but I want to say it can be very damaging. Emotional incest is kind of, it's very confusing. I think Frazee might actually have had physical incest, because what he was doing was he killed the good girl who was like, this is bullshit, I'm not putting up with this. Kelsey really loved herself. She went for her dreams. She was a flight instructor. You know, we can look at some of the differences here is in that, okay, Gavin, you know what's going to happen. I have this kind of balanced good, right? Okay, I love you too. Okay, I know. I know he steals the show, doesn't he? Sit. Do you want to sit for me? No? All right, you can stand. So what we saw in Kelsey is someone who had self-love. I mean, look at her. You can tell, right? Because we were attracted to her light. Look how pretty Kelsey was. Look how there was a self-confidence in her that we saw. And even her friends who were interviewed later, they really looked at, you know, when they said she knew what she wanted. She wanted to fly, and her mother was like, I didn't want her to fly, but Kelsey flew, and she became a flight instructor. This is a woman who had a career she enjoyed. She had a child she enjoyed. She also had a drinking problem, which she supposedly, now here's the thing, I don't think she did. I think Frazee was making things up about her. If anything, I think that she probably took a few days away, kind of going, oh my gosh, you know, I'm drinking too much. You know, so there's some of us, and I know this seems shocking, but there's some people who walk around who like have a weekend where they drink too much and they go, ugh, I'm not doing that again. And they don't. And I think my take on this is that that's who Kelsey was. She wasn't somebody who would fall into a binge, you know? So I know, look at my Gab. You gonna sit with mommy? No, you're so good. Okay, he's just like, I want to just show everybody how much I love you. He's a good boy. You're very good, aren't you? Good. You gonna protect me? All right. You just sleep then in the meantime. So when we look at Kelsey, one of the things we see is we see value. We see personal value. We see that I bet you $10 or 10 pounds, wherever you are in the world, I bet you Frazee was trying to pull her under. Think about this for a minute. He was trying to pull her under, and she went, No, it's over. Here's your ring. And you see, this is what a healthy person does. Now, when I say healthy, that doesn't mean someone who is being beaten down can't say, I'm done. But I think that that when it's done from a place of self-esteem and shining, and someone who's as dangerous as this guy, which I think he's dangerous. I mean, I am not going to pull any punches. I think he is just so dangerous. He scares me. So let's see. Okay. Oh, thank you for putting the Patreon up. I really appreciate it. Karamia, that's so cool. I know, who wouldn't love, let's see. Tell me your quote. Tell us your quote. Say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean. Say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. I actually put it on one of the coffee mugs. It's really funny. Let me just, yeah, he is. It's like, you know, no, Gavin just rescued me from like the depth of having one less whippet. They're like potato chips. I have to tell you, if I could have 20 of them, I would. And Blue Horn, yay! Thank you for the super chat. Just love that. Yes. Astera Fire, forgive me for if I said that wrong. Independence is threatening to them. They need to depend upon. Now there's a red flag to watch for. Exactly. Okay. And Blue Horn, I love you, and I'm really appreciative of your support. And I want to just acknowledge that. Thank you. Okay, let's see. So one of the red flags to look for is when somebody yanks away. Okay, and by yank away, I mean, that isn't to say that someone won't withdraw. Like, guys do stuff like that, right? But, oh, Jody Z, did you see that? You got greenies. Yeah, you got greenie money. Jody Z just did a shout out to you. Ooh. You gonna beg for your supper now? Do you want an apple? All right, he loves apples too. That's his big thing. If you saw him chew on an apple, it is the funniest thing. When I had my house in California, my whippets would go up to the tree and then back up and pull the apples off. You don't remember that because you weren't there. Okay. So he's a whippet. I know apples. They love apples, and they're very good for them, actually. Yes, Gavin is a whippet cat. And here's the funny thing about the whippet thing is that he's actually what they call out of standard, which is why he's not a show dog, because he's a little big for a whippet. So he's kind of like a big boy, but he is a whippet. Christy Hurst, thank you so much for the super chat. I love it. Thank you so much. Do you give him the whole apple? Yep. And he'll carry it around half the day. Oh, poor thing. I'm gonna, yeah. Oops. There you go. Thank you. Because somehow my Shih Tzu got banned. Wait. You gonna tip? Do you want to do that? Do you? Are you gonna tell them? Do you want to tell them a secret? You can give me a kissy. All right. Okay. So, so I just want you to know, Gavin is very excited because I've ordered a box of greenies. Let's see. Yeah, they love apples. It's extremely good for them. You know, the old apple a day keeps the doctor away. The only thing you have to do is I core them. I take the pits out, and they love it. Jojo, how are you, babe? Thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. And it really helps, by the way. I really appreciate it. I know you heard me say greenie, and greenie gives him the whoop. I know. Jojo, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And I will tell you, I think that okay, I will take a video. I'm going to take a video of you eating your apple one night, okay? Because what he does is he hoards them. Like, he hoards his apple, and then he like sneaks in and he tries to hit in a corner and he eats it. It's very cute. All right. Okay. So somebody said very deep stuff. Kiss City. I'm sorry. I know he wants his greenie, but he'll get one in a bit. Do you want your apple though? All right, I'll give him an apple in a bit. I've taken them out anyway. Yeah, my boys are so good. Let's see. No, somebody said if she was abusing alcohol. Let's get back to Kelsey. No, she was not abusing alcohol. And that's what I was going to say. I forgot to say that Frazee made up a lot of lies about Kelsey so that he could, I think it was all to set up getting the child. Now, here's what's funny. We would look at this and say, well, why would like a guy like that want a girl, right? Because it's kind of like, it's kind of like Chris Watts. At a certain point, that little girl's going to grow up and it's like they can't handle it. But here's the thing I want to say. I think that child was in some ways, and this is just my hit on it, was a sacrificial lamb for that mother. Did y'all see a picture of Frazee's mother? Seriously, she looked like the woman who, do you remember Hansel and Gretel and the mean old witch, right? And she puts them in a cage. That's what Frazee's mother reminded me of. There was an energy there and I went, ooh. And I've got to tell you the truth. I felt it even worse in some ways with Frazee's mom than I did with Cindy Watts. Cindy Watts to me is obvious. Frazee's mom was really scary. She was, Frazee's mother even tried to go into, she tried to go into court to get custody of the little girl. So what does that tell you? I really think Frazee had the look, and he has the look of a man or boy. I want to say he really looked like a boy who has been physically, I want to say physically assaulted by his mother. This is a guy who still lived at home. All right. Now, I'm not saying Chris Watts lived at home too, but I didn't feel that from Chris Watts. I've got to tell you, I don't feel the physical thing. Hold on. Thank you, Kiski City. I appreciate it. Thanks for the super chat. My friend Duty Ron does that, so he does the big heart. I know, Arthur Henderson, it is gross, but one of the things I want to say to you is that, did somebody ask a question? Spiritual solace. Okay. Are you live for real? Yes. Yes. And I'm going to say your name, Sammy Inglés. I'm really free. I'm really here. Patrick Frazee is scarier. You know what, Ms. Colai, I agree with you. See, I kind of think that that there is so much evil in Frazee. Frazee really has the look of Ted Bundy. Not only does he have that kind of like very thin and lanky, tall, right? He has the body of a Ted Bundy, like that kind of like, and very, there's, and I recognize it because yeah, his mom did look crazy. So what I want to say about this is that there is a way, there is definitely an energy of a boy who is too attached to his mother. And by too attached, I mean a sickness where, first of all, okay, I told you about my crazy cousin. My cousin, who actually took all the family money from my grandmother, he had her sign it over on her deathbed to him. It was just he and I. His mother was schizophrenic. So I'm talking about my family, just to give you an example. Now, my cousin, Rob, he's long dead, so I'm not afraid to say this. He slept in the same bed as his mother until he was 25, to my knowledge. And then that's around the time when she died, I think. I think it was like, yeah, I think it was like, wait, my mom died. I think it was around, yeah, I was around 20 to 25. Now, did they have sex? I don't know. Like, you know, it's kind of like my own denial. I'm like, ooh, I don't even want to think of that, you know. But I know that when she died, he would not clean out her bedroom. So until the day he took all the property from us, from me, Her bedroom still had all her stuff in it, and you could still smell her perfume. I know, shut the front door, right, Dawn? Now, here's the thing I want to say. I remember my father, we were sitting with my grandmother, my aunt, me, and there were 4 of us. It was my mom, grandmother, my aunt, me, my dad, 5, and Robbie, my cousin. He was on, and you know, there's always a problem when they call the little boy Robbie or Joey, you know. Anyway, so he's sitting on the floor and he was playing, and I was really little, but I vaguely remember my father looking at my grandmother, and he used to say this to me a lot. He'd say, I remember looking at Rob and saying to your grandmother, that boy's going to grow up to have a lot of problems. And it was always odd to me that he never had his own bedroom. So I want to say that I think Frazee never got away from his mother and her sickness. I know it's scary. Now, here's the thing I want to say about that. It really makes me glad that the end of the line ended because I would not want to see that reproducing, okay? I think Frazee wanted that little girl. He was, let me put it this way to you. He could not control Kelsey, but he could please his mother by getting that little girl. Think about it this way. How crazy is his mother to try and get custody of Frazee's daughter when he murdered the mother? Because, you know, I got to tell you, the way that works, it doesn't work like that in the courts. They're not going to give the murderer's family custody. It's extremely rare. And the fact that she went to fight it, I think this was the golden child. Like he came home with the golden egg. Like he was going to give, I guarantee that mother was so happy having a baby girl that he was now the golden child. And what happens too, when someone like that, like a Frazee, brings that child into the family, I want you to imagine, because this is what I feel energetically, he's off the hook. The mother's going to kind of not pay attention to him and going to pay attention to the little girl. So we can really look at, when you look at that dynamic, and I said this in the video and I'll say this again, listen to the ex-wife. Because I guarantee the ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, I'm going to tell you something, cosmic truth, it's not going to change with you. You know, I remember friends of mine calling me, I can't believe he left me. I'd be like, thank God he left. One of my very best friends married a guy who was a soap star. And I knew him in New York, and I hadn't known her, and we all met in LA again, and I loved her. She's a great friend of mine. But boy, was he a jackass. And I remember she came down, she goes, oh, he wants a divorce, he wants separation, he wants to see somebody. I go, thank God. And she looked at me and said, how can you say that? I go, you are so lucky. You don't even know how lucky you are. And that's the thing, is that she went on, of course, she's married to a great guy now, and they have 2 kids, and the kids are like, I can't believe old enough. But the point I'm making is that, you know, Kelsey would have gone on. Shanann would have gone on. We need to keep asking, what are the signs, and how can we as a community band together and really see what these signs are? So I think the first thing is that I always want to share with you, look at the other person's family. Listen. See this? 1, 2, listen to what they're telling you. I know that sounds like mean. I don't mean to be mean. But it's kind of like they're going to tell you on the first date, yeah, you know, my mom and my dad are divorced. My dad hit my mom, and I was there. I always protected my mom. I would never do that. Really? Why is it in a real estate deal? When you see a red flag, you go, ooh, I'm not getting that house, right? But when it comes to love, we go, oh, he's not going to be that way. Just listen and back up. That doesn't mean you have to go no. It just means, maybe I'll give this some thought. because people will tell you who they are. All right. They really will, but you have to listen. And the other thing I would say to you is always expose the person to your friends early on. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't have friends, get some. Because the most important thing is to never be isolated in any relationship. Because what happens is you do not have the internal wealth that you need to own, value, remember I was talking about value, to bring to the table. And I'll do another feed on value and all that, but I wanted to just talk tonight about that. Tiffany Jacks chose to step into grace, kindness, and be uplifted. Thank you so much, Tiffy. I appreciate that, Tiffy Jacks. Thanks for the super chat. That's really very, very kind. Brent, yeah, I know. You need to write a book of stories. Do you know what I did? Brent, I'm glad you're saying that. I actually have a book that when my father died, I went into a deep depression. And I don't even know what that said. Somebody, thank you. Okay, so Brent, I went into a deep depression when my dad died because I loved my dad. And that was when I came up with the idea that, listen, I can either live because he lived or I can die because he died. And I got to make that choice. So obviously I'm here. But I wrote a book called The Veteran's Daughter, and it's a series of short stories all about my relationship with my dad, which is like really funny and really fantastic all at the same time. And I think a true, and so what I'd like to do is maybe I'll just record some of the stories and I'll read them and I'll just share those. And so maybe I'll do like just a playlist that's kind of like The Veteran's Daughter and put up some of those stories, which were fabulous. Because he jumped on D-Day, he was in Market Garden, he was in Battle of the Bulge, and he was fantastic. So there you go. All right, thank you for that, Brent. Let's see. You know, I always say, you guys, shh. You got to be quiet. We don't want to wake the trolls, but it looks like they're awake. What is this? Oh, it's Friday night. Okay. Jessica, I always miss you when you're gone. I'm glad you're back. They are so interesting. Thank you, Brent. I appreciate it. Tori, what does it mean when you see double numbers frequently? Yeah, Moody Sky, my dad was pretty freaking cool. He was pretty freaking cool. I loved him dearly. Great guy. I was very lucky. And I didn't know how lucky I was. We often don't know. Let's talk about numbers in a second. Thank you, Joseph. Wish I knew what I knew now when I was younger. Boy, wouldn't we be different people? I was married to a very important man and a public man. He was scary behind doors. Yeah. Natty Bates, I've been seeing 444 a lot. And before she became fundamentalist, Doreen Virtue was really into angels, and she used to talk about angel numbers. And she used to say 444 is the angel number. And I'll tell you what I see a lot. My father's birthday was April 26th. So I will see 426 a lot. I'll just see it in places, and it will just, you know, show up. So there you go. And when I see numbers like that, and sometimes I'll sit up in the middle of the night and I'll look over and it'll say 426, right? Or I'll, sorry, I'm kind of trying to stay in the light, but this thing is, ooh, look at me. I'm sorry, Gavin. You should see this. He's completely sprawled out. It's like he's just like the size of a man right now. He's like this massive dog. When you see, and I'll look up and I'll even see a lot of times at night, I'll see my birthday, which is 12/19, December 19. And I see those things and I think they're kind of reminders that we're on the right track. And I feel one of the other things I did, and this is a really cool thing to do with a parent or loved one before they die, is to ask them, what are some of the signs you're going to send me when you cross over? How will I know you're there? And my mother, before she died, said to me, look for my birthday. And her birthday was 207. And one of my favorite stories is when I was, I lived in New York, grew up in New York City, grew up in Greenwich Village before it was popular. My mother used to have tea with E.E. Cummings, and then our next door neighbor was E.E. Cummings. And then around the corner, I would have lunch at Mr. Beard's house, James Beard, who to me was just Mr. Beard, who was a neighbor, but he was a very famous chef. I didn't know at the time. And anyway, my mother, her birthday was 207. And I was looking for an apartment in New York City, and I said, okay, hi, everybody. I'd walk into these places and I'd say, and this has to do with numbers. I am answering a question. I'd walk into a real estate office and I'd say, okay, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom apartment. I'd like it to be under $300 a month. And they started laughing at me. I mean, literally these real estate agents, but in those days they had rules. You still had an index card and you had to fill it out. They didn't have computers then. And not dating myself, but they didn't have computers. And so I filled out the index card. Probably most of them went in the circular bin, but in the middle of a blizzard, it must have been about a month later, I got a call from a guy, a realtor. And I always had with me $2,000 cash because in New York, you want an apartment, it's got to happen like that. And I grew up in Greenwich Village, and my dad always had that apartment, well, since the 50s. But anyway, so I ran over, this broker called me and he said, listen, I got your apartment right now, get over here. I said, so I got there, he goes, you're the only one crazy enough to ask for a 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan for $300. I got one for $375. It's rent stabilization. You want it? I go, yes. He said, all right, but it's X amount. I think it was like $1,500 I had to put down, or $1,575. I gave him the cash right there, got the keys, signed an agreement. It was a blizzard, you guys. And so I didn't even know the address, right? So I said, what's the address? And I had the key and I had everything. What's the address? Because I knew it was in Chelsea, right? So it was just nearby. And he said, okay, it's 207 8th Avenue. 207, that was my mother's birthday. And I walked into the apartment, I'll never forget it, and it was freezing out, bitter. If you're a northerner, you know. And it was cold out, and it was so warm in there. And all I did was, New York, set off some rope straps, left, and then came in and cleaned it all out. And it was a great apartment for $375. Nobody believed I got it. But one of the things I learned is when I felt numbers were signs for me of certain things. And I always pay attention to signs because I think it's kind of God's way of remaining anonymous, coincidences like that. I think it's like, my friend Kim calls it a God funny, because it's kind of like, oh, here's something for you. And you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. So the point I'm making is that numbers are significant if you feel they are. And that's the difference, is that sometimes it's just like, oh, I'm seeing this a lot and it doesn't mean anything. But if you're sensitive and you're willing to see that maybe you are connected to something bigger than you, it's a very exciting thing. And so I think that, people say to me all the time, do you believe all this woo-woo stuff you do? And, my feeling about it is I'm kind of less woo and more you, but I say, I'd rather live in the magic of possibility than the sadness of nothing's going to happen. And, one of the things I want to say, and we all go through it, we all go through this. One of the things I want to say to all of you is the first thing when we're looking at crimes like this is make sure you have some people around you that you can hear and that can hear you. If anyone gets into a conversation with you where they put you down, don't think that they're suddenly going to be able to listen to you. And hi, Gavin, we know. I know what you want. I know, it's almost time. So it's like he's getting into, excuse me, it's almost apple time for me. I just need a moment with my boy. Let's see. I'm going to look at this a lot. Mystery Baker said, I wish I had signs like that. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. I'm glad you said that, Mystery Baker. Here's the key to signs. And I want to say this. The big thing about signs for us is, at least for me, is that I have to be in the white light of God. I have to know that I'm in that energy before I can even open to that. Because for me, it's like there's so much fear out there. I'm never, you know, I know he is a cutie, isn't he? He's just like, look, he's just like putting his head in my hand. Like he's a cutie pie. And you should see, I've got to tell you all this. I've got on my front porch, there's like a doggy, it's like I don't want to say, it's like, there's a doggy door, but it's a ramp and it goes down to a staircase that literally my house is built into a hill like this, that literally goes all the way down to my lower unit, then around my lower unit and into the yard. That dog can make it all the way around up the stairs in 6 seconds. I'm going to videotape it one time because it isn't, you are incredible. Like I just say the word greenie and I shake the bag. That dog moves faster than anything I've ever seen. It's like lightning. Okay. I was born. Okay. Sarah smile. Oh, Sarah smile. You have 8 siblings. Wow. Death date of daughter's grandpa. Daughter's grandpa on her dad's side. I don't know what daughter's grandpa on her dad's side means. I don't know what daughter's grandpa means. I'm sorry, I'm confused on the death date of daughters. Oh, I was born on the death date of your daughter's grandpa? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't follow that. It's not linear to me. I know, Jessica, you'll want to see it. It's pretty cool. I'm sorry, Sarah, I can't. Do you know anything about life path numbers? Thank you all, unite. Good night. Okay, Jeremy. Bye. Sorry. Yeah, because I'm just, hold on, put user, hide user. Okay. The reason I, and I have nothing against anybody who loves Jesus, believe me. I just don't want to be preached to, and I don't want you to be preached to. I'm totally fine if you want to go to church and hear it, but you don't have to hear it on my channel. What, you missed the scripture, Jessica? Sorry. Okay. Let's see. See, Lynn, you're going to start. Okay. Somebody said, I wish I was sensitive to numbers. What I want to tell you is the first thing. Hi, buddy. The first thing that begins to happen is you'll start to notice that, your birthday's showing up in certain places. Or take, for example, knowing I had that from my mom with her birthday, I started to notice that my dad's birthday, which was April 26th, was always a magical day for me. So what I did was I started recognizing and feeling every time, and I allowed this to happen, every time I saw 426, I had a moment where I just thought of my dad and I connected with a good memory. And so what begins to happen is that your soul opens up to the idea that we are all connected and that no one ever really dies. They change form. Now, that's not a thing to say to somebody when they've just lost a parent, okay? Especially if you haven't. So there we go. Oh my gosh, Jessica, really? You're April 26th. Does adoption change things? Okay, I'm glad you said adoption. No. Adoption actually means you are meant to be with that family. I guarantee you came through somebody else to be born to another family. And that's the beauty of adoption. That's where when you find those right people, it just goes to show you that you can really, people who are adopted show us that anything is possible with the right love in your life. And obviously there are problems with adoption too, but I want to really say that adoption is one of the most loving, amazing things I think anybody can do. Because I look at people like Faith Hill, this brilliant singer, she was adopted. So there's people that are incredibly talented, brilliant people. Adoption doesn't change anything. It just means you got a little bit of extra love, you know, maybe than the rest of us, because somebody loved you enough to bring you home, you know. Okay. My son was born the day after Easter. There you go. July 31st, Liz Sip. Oh, Miss Leo. I was born on the 21st, husband 21st, oldest son on the 20th. Oh, that's a good point. When you see similar numbers, like if, for example, I'm on December 19th, my dad's first wife was November 19th, you start to see patterns, right? Because we're somehow connected. And those are karmic numbers too. I learned that my life path number is 1. Oh, you're a starter. Kind of don't like that much feedback on my own path in life, which is spot on. Yeah, you know what? Why, Julie? You don't want to because you want to start it. You want to get out there and do it. You don't want people telling you what to do. And I'm, oh, hi, sweet pig. I know. He's just like, it's like, Mommy, you're up too late. I just haven't put him in his crate because he loves being in his crate. Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Tori. Thank you, trees. Okay. I think I should end with a little story. All right. Let me just see if I can find it as I'm talking to you all. Do you like a little story? I always see 1111 too, Lourdes. That is so funny. And by the way, girl, you just keep doing your beauty channel. You're doing fantastic. Lourdes Ramirez, everybody. She has it's so sweet. You've really just started out. But don't quit. Don't quit. You're very likable on camera. I really like you. I'm terrified of aging. Martha Mendez. You know what? Because aging is hated in our country. Thank you for bringing that up. My God, it's like, that's why I moved from California. I couldn't take another minute of being like older than the buildings around me. I just got crazy with it. And so I wanted to be somewhere where the history mattered and something other than my lifetime. There were things bigger than me in the mix. If you think of it, everybody, would you give the feed a thumbs up and make sure, if you would help me, share these with people, because it really does help in bringing in people and upping the channel. Because I left LA too, Tori. Good for you, Natty. I'm 60. You're probably a hot 60, Noreen Gardner. Totally makes sense to me about being old. Oh gosh. Here's the thing. I think something else is going on, which is that when I looked at all the YouTube people, they're all 20. Now I'm going to VidCon in, I've got to get my ticket. I'm going to get it tonight. I'm going to go to VidCon in LA in July. Do you know, I looked at everybody, everybody's like 20 and they're all like, and here I am like in my 50s going, with my dog. I mean, it's kind of, there is not a representation of us in the world. There is not a representation of those of us who grew up wearing Liz Claiborne. I'm sorry, like we thought it was cool back then, There's not a lot of us who remember, before we had Call Annoying. Now it's Call Waiting. Hot Pink. Yeah, right on. You know what? I think, Bren Rick 60. Does it get any better? The answer is yes. Here's what I want to tell you about 40. For those of you, anybody not 40? Okay, I'm going to say this to you. Okay, Jessica, you're so young. You've got a young name. Tell me if I'm right. When you hit 40, you went, oh shit, this is the best kept secret. Like seriously, it is a great, isn't it the best? You go, woo! And then when you hit 50, you kind of go, I'm still young, but I feel like I don't want to work so hard. I want to play more. I want a life. That's what, I think that's going to be like my next thing. I want a life, I want an adventure. I don't want to sit here. I know, Red. God bless you, right? Oh, God. Okay, I will. I should have a contest to guess my age, but you can find it on the internet. Yes. Out. I'm 28, but I was born with a 45-year-old soul. Are you Miss 2845? I'm going to call you 2845 now. Are you Capricorn by any chance? I'm just curious what your sign is. Because Capricorn is old when they're young, young when they're old. Glad Dolly 20, you are 50. I know, we're all 26 inside, right? Okay, so December 23rd, there's another little Capricorn. Okay, so if you're a Capricorn, you're young. I'm just grabbing this because I want to look for I'm trying to find something very specific, you guys, because I want to share it with you. And then I'm going to wrap up because I want to give you my story. Remember I said nighttime, so we always have a little night story. And part of the reason I like doing little stories with you guys is because I think the power of storytelling is long gone. And I think it's become, we forget that generations learned by passing stories down. And that's why it's so important that we share our stories with each other. And we keep saying to each other what we experienced. Somebody did I want to just see if I can find it on here. Somebody did it was a very funny stand-up routine. And it was about, let's talk about, grandma 50 years ago and grandma today. So the grandma of 50 years ago, because I love this. Grandma 50 years ago, you said to grandma, so grandma, sorry, I'm gonna pull this back up. So grandma, what was it like? What's this picture? Oh, well, that was when I was standing with Charles Lindbergh right before he went on the cross international first flight of ground. Wow. Thank you, Aaron F. Appreciate the super chat. It means a lot to me. Believe me, it helps because it's like I spent a lot of time doing this, so I appreciate it. Thank you. So that's grandma 50 years ago. Grandma today, the recent grandma's like this. So grandma, what'd you do? Hold on. See, this is what I had for lunch. This is what I know you won't know what this means really, but that's kind of a donut that that your Uncle Harry left behind, and I thought it was funny. So it's like beautiful. Wait a second, is that you, Bounty? Hold on. Bountiful Plenty, thank you so much. And I'm sending you lots of light for your healing. Everybody, let's send her lots of light. Thank you for the super chat. It means a lot to me, and I know that you're going through a lot, so I want to, just say that. Here's the thing. If you're in your 50s, you're not alone. And by the way, I said this to some friends of mine the other day. Do you notice that the people in their 50s and 60s, they don't look as old? Like when my grandma was 50, dude, she looked old. I'm serious. She even sounded old. She was like hunched, she was like 107. You know why I don't think we age? It's all those preservatives in the food. Think about it. You're preserving shit, right? Wouldn't it preserve us? Right? It's like, oh, it's monosodium glutamate that keeps this thing healthy forever. Well, I don't think anything's gonna fall, right? Because we've had so much crap, So anyway, so that's my I know, right? Your Bren Rick. Yeah, my mom at 60 looked old. Right now, 58. Okay, seriously, guys. 58. This is 58. I'm 58. I'm 1960. That's my total disclosure to you. I probably won't mention it again, but do you believe it? Like, this is the thing. We don't look our age. We don't. I mean, now, I may not have the best knees, but, when I tell you this, we're really living in a time when time is not important. And it's thank you, Red Like Wine. Woo! So, oh, I know, Liz Stark. Okay, story time. Okay, I promise story time. So, I was saying that I wrote, she's like, Tori, don't forget story time. Let me just see if I can find it. That's a long one. I don't want to read that. How about, see if I can find it on here. Am I in the wrong drive? Don't you hate when you're in the wrong drive? Okay. Hold on. Give me one moment, everybody. Talk amongst yourselves. Say something interesting. Sometimes. Okay, let me see if I can find Arlington. That's usually around. Wow, this is really amazing. I'm in the wrong drive. Oops. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Okay. Yeah, see, that's the thing is we don't look our ages anymore. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like, are you kidding? Like, You know, and that's the thing. I've always been lucky on camera. So when I say that to you guys, I really mean it. Like, I remember when I met Talia Shire, you know, Rocky's girlfriend, and she was in Godfather. She played the daughter, right? Yo, Adrian. Anyway, when I met Talia Shire, I looked at her and she said, I know, she is gorgeous in person, like gorgeous. Like, she was the most beautiful woman. I was like, oh. And she goes, I know. I don't look good on film. And I just thought it was really funny, like an odd thing, because I thought she was stunning. Okay, here we go. Veteran's daughter. So I'm going to look for a particular story. I think I'm going to tell you tonight. It's a short one. I really like this one. It's one of my favorites. Con Ed. Let me see if I can find it. Give me one moment. Okay. So what I did was, when my father died, I actually, this is very easy. This is just the opening. This is the opening of the book. So how about this? It's a short story. It's a page. And I wrote it. And this will give you a really good idea. How I see my dad and my relationship with him. Okay. You guys ready? Get all cuddled up with each other. We're going to do a little, everybody get in a corner, you know, in a little circle. Remember when we were little and everybody was like, sit in a little circle. Okay, hold hands. We're going to have milk and cookies. Okay. And the name of this is my father, Papa. I used to call him Papa. Ellick, E-L-E-K, Tisdale Hartman, April 26, 1922 to January 12, 2002. Ellick Tisdale Hartman was born a few months after his own father's death. He was raised in an orphanage and never wore new boots until he enlisted in the Army in 1942. He decided upon the paratroopers because the poster read, "Jump into the fight with the United States paratroopers." Perhaps the drama, along with the $50 extra a month, clinched the deal. Training was hard for him. His asthma was a constant enemy, but he was determined and his perseverance paid off. On June 6, 1944, my father jumped into Normandy and was part of the liberation of Saint-Marie-Église, the first town liberated by the Allies from the Nazis. In September of that same year, he jumped into Holland in Operation Market Garden, and he also survived the Battle of the Bulge. He received the Bronze Star for heroism, a certificate of merit from General Gavin, and a Purple Heart with an oak leaf cluster. It was in the Bulge one night during a horrible shelling that Papa lay in a trench and made the most important decision of his life. He would later tell me that he swore to himself that if he made it out of this alive, he was going to do what he loved for the rest of his life. He was going to be a theater actor in New York City. I don't know of anyone personally who loved the theater more than my father. He would climb up those horribly dusty stairs in what appeared to be long condemned buildings to not only participate in shows, but to see anyone else perform. It didn't matter who it was or what it was. The play was indeed the thing. At one point, he came out to Los Angeles to visit me and stayed a few years. He liked LA enough and told me one night that he felt like a failure because he didn't have the fame that comes with film and television. He said this standing in his Greenwich Village living room, a wall behind him dotted with framed pictures of all of his shows. I pointed to the wall and asked him how anyone who'd spent their life doing what they loved could be anything but a success. I guess that makes me a famous unknown actor, he joked. I grew up in that same Greenwich Village apartment, and one of my earliest memories of my father occurred when I was 3 years old. It was Christmas time, and Papa had been on tour in Arkansas with a show, and he was driving home during a blizzard. He assured my mother that he would be home in time for Christmas, and he would be cautious on the roads. That night, I sat up in his large, overstuffed chair, and I stared at the door, very concerned that he wouldn't come home. It grew very late. I teared up and I shook my head. "He no come," I said to my mother. My mother was unable to remove me from his chair that night. She went off to bed, and I fell asleep clinging to the arm. I can still see my father coming through the door, covered with melting snow, scooping me up and hugging me. His cheek was cold like the day he died, but it was the first of many long memories of my father coming through for me in life. Anyone who says actors are unreliable never knew my father. He was the quiet man who always had a joke or a kind word. He was irritated by unprofessional people, and he would light up in a conversation about theater. He kept a car in New York City, and many a night he would offer someone a ride home, assuring whomever it was that they lived right on his way. He was the neighbor and friend everyone wants to have, and for anyone who stood on a stage with him, he was a comrade. But history will remember him as a war hero, and I buried him on January 28, 2002 in Arlington National Cemetery. What a fitting end to a remarkable man who left me a legacy I am profoundly proud of. I'll miss my papa. I'll miss his humor and his spirit of adventure. I'll miss his political views and his laughter at the madness of life. I'll miss the way he offered me a piece of his daily orange when I visited him. And I'll miss the way he wore his cap tipped slightly to the side, as many of those of the greatest generation did. I'll miss the slight limp in his walk and his beat-up bag that carried countless scripts over the years. Most of all, I'll miss his love. Anytime someone slips a quarter into a stranger's meter because it's expired, I'll think of my father, Alec Hartman. Kindness, helping others, and doing the right thing. My hero. So that's the opening to the book, to understand what I'm talking about. So thank you so much, you guys. I wanted to just say thank you to everyone. Thank you, CA. Thank you for the super chat. Sometimes, I was reading, so I missed it, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I want to thank my moderators. We've been on quite a while tonight, but I really appreciate Jessica. You are a effing rock star, and thank you for, for all you do for us. Spiritual Solace with Karamia. Wow, brilliant. Thank you so much. You two are like, man, just thank you. So what I was going to say is I will do some of those, and I'll just read them and put them up in kind of a folder so you can see them. Thank you so much, everyone. And for those of you that had a really wonderful parent, remember that you were truly loved, truly, truly loved. And that is a gift. That's a legacy you've been given. And I know you're probably a great parent if you are. All right, everyone, much love tonight. Blessings, blessings. I'm going to see who else is on. You know me poking around. And I send you lots of love, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.